Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the Whitefield Runners Podcast with me, Nitin.
And me, Vinod.
Thank you so much for all the great questions and feedback for our previous 2 episodes. I think one of the new runners, he wanted to get into running,
Yes.
but wasn't sure, how expensive or costly is running as a hobby to pursue.
Yeah.
So the two of us decided why not spin that into an episode and discuss in detail about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Sounds perfect. Let's go.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Okay, Vinod, before we get into the topic for today, you crushed a half marathon, didn't you?
No, the marathon crushed me, I would say. So yes, I did the Biddi half marathon. Biddi is a town right outside Bangalore. Yes, so the marathon was on Sunday, and because it was a big, long drive, I actually went the previous night. I stayed at a hotel, so I was
really?
Nicely fresh on the day. And the best part is, there was a huge thunderstorm the previous night, so the weather had improved a little bit. And from what I could gauge, the course looked pretty flat. It didn't seem like it had massive hills. So I was pretty excited going into it, thinking that maybe this is the day I do a 220.
Okay.
But my lack of training actually came to the fore, because what happened was I was able to follow my plan of running 900 and then recovering for 100. I did that for 10, 11, or even 12 kilometers. And after that, I started to fade away quite badly. I was struggling to run for even 500 meters at a time. So it was like 400, then 200 run. I at that time, I went into survival mode. My objective was just finish it. Don't give up.
This was after the 12th kilometer.
Yeah, between
So basically you're
second
not
half.
doing your long runs, showing up in the
Yes,
race.
correct.
Okay.
Exactly. Till then, my longest run since my previous half marathon had been a 12K that I did at Kabban a few weeks back. So
Right.
there was a big gap there, and it clearly showed. So yeah, I think, but I was happy about one thing. I thought I'll give up after the 7th or 8th kilometer itself.
Okay. You mean give up as in slow down after the
Yeah, just walk.
I see.
Just walk the rest of it. What's the big deal? It's okay. You should fail once in a while. Fail very badly. But I kept going, and I think after the 16th kilometer, again, it started to become easy, because it's the whole mental thing. When you're at 8, you feel like, there's still another 13 kilometers to go. So that if you don't do long runs in the lead up, it starts to become a burden. But once you realize that now it's just another 6, just another 5, and every step, you're just getting closer, then it becomes a little easier once again.
Yeah.
So my pace actually picked up again in the last quarter of the race.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. So eventually I finished at
231.
231 and a little bit longer than that. Got a nice medal, and Biddi is famous for tatte idli.
Okay.
So I had that for the breakfast as well. So that was good. Yeah.
Wonderful day to spend your Sunday morning.
Yeah.
231 viewers is not a bad timing at all. It was in fact
It's not great.
Vinod's second best half marathon effort. So congrats again.
Well, thank you.
Good luck for your next one. So I think in our podcast, we'll have a separate section dedicated to tracking Vinod's half marathons. As you know, if you followed our previous episodes, you would know that he's planning to do one half marathon every month. And if you heard Vinod's experience, you would understand that doing 20K is not the same as doing 2 10Ks. The second 10K, your body needs to get used to it. So be sure to bake in long runs in your training plans if you're training for half marathons. I know there are a bunch of events coming up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't have my next one nailed down, but I'll keep you posted for sure. Yeah.
Cool. With that, we should dive right into our topic for today, which is very simple, right? Is running a costly, expensive hobby to pursue?
Yeah.
At the outset, it looks like just, wear your shoes and go for a run. Yeah. Or if you're Mr. Barefoot, you don't need anything. You just go out and run.
Yeah.
But obviously, there are multiple nuances there. So where do we begin?
I think you could start with apparel and footwear, and then the technology that also helps us. We've discussed this in the past a little bit on our first episode. So we can go into these areas.
Yeah.
And a few other things that you might need as accessories. They would cost less than 50 rupees in total, but things that can actually save you a lot of pain during the run.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We'll discuss that. So let's start with shoes.
shoes. Yes, shoes
So-
is a good topic to start.
So what is the range or variety that's available in shoes? And for someone beginning, is
Yeah.
it mandatory to have like a proper running shoe, or you can just start and then figure out how does that work?
I think we can go back to our own experiences. We've followed completely different paths, I think.
Yes.
I started during the pandemic, right? Because there was nothing else to do for me in terms of fitness. So the nearest store was a very local, no name brand store. It was a 300, 400 rupees ka shoe. And I just wore those. It had no
Really?
cushioning.
400 rupees shoe.
It had no cushioning. It
You're
had
serious?
nothing.
Like
Yes.
400 rupees shoe.
It was so bad that I'm surprised that I pulled off that many miles with it. So I think I ran till March from October. So that's a good few months and maybe 500 kilometers of mileage in that time with these no name shoes. And just about, the shoes held together. But then I upgraded from that to 600 rupee Decathlon shoes. Again, these were like not meant for running at all. They were primarily built for, I think, light walking of 10 to 12 kilometers a week. That's what it said on the label. But me being, not interested in spending too much at that stage, I still wasn't convinced by this whole running thing. So the 600 rupee shoes had to make do. And I got another good amount of mileage out of it. So another, say, 500 or something with those shoes as well. Before finally I upgraded to actual running shoes again from Decathlon, nothing fancy. So my third pair of shoes was Kipran 500. I paid 6,000 rupees for that. I got 1,000 kilometers proper from it. And then I upgraded to my current running shoes, my favorites, my Hoka Clifton. I bought this in Singapore, but I felt like I had to earn that. I had to complete a lot of kilometers before I felt like
Completely relatable.
that I am, allowed to buy these pair of shoes. But it need not be like that.
Yeah.
It's good to protect your ankles and your knees at an early stage. But I love my current Hoka shoes, and these are my only running shoes. I have one pair
couple
of
of
shoes.
Unstructured, unbranded shoes, less than $1,000, and then like a good Kipran from Decathlon, and then your new babies, Hokas.
My new Hokas. And the thing I think most people don't realize is that when you're getting into running, you have to keep note of how much you've run with a particular pair of shoes, because there's a certain life beyond which they're not able to provide the support that you would expect from them. So what was your journey like though with
Mine
shoes?
was completely different, right? So I had one basic Nike shoe, Nike Vomero 16 or Vomero 17, I don't remember. I had that before I started running. So it was my running shoe before I started running. And the moment I, did like, 2 weeks of running, right? I thought like, I deserve better. And then I didn't like, go gradually. I just like directly went to Nike Vaporfly.
Okay.
And I learned it the hard way that, those shoes are not meant for me.
Okay. Oh shit. How much did you end up spending on those?
Yeah, I think it's pretty expensive. I think 18-20K.
18-20K. Okay.
Yeah. I figured out that, those are not meant for me. Let me tell you why, right?
Yeah.
Your normal running shoes have a lot of cushion and are meant for more stability and, cushion in your legs than pace. These carbon plated shoes are meant for speed. And like, I was doing 10Ks at 80 minutes, and then I definitely did not need those shoes. In fact, it was counterproductive because I have an issue with my leg called pronation.
Okay, yes. This is important. Let's go into that.
Let's discuss pronation. So my feet, I have flat feet, so they roll inward. So my knees are outside, and then like, my feet roll inward when I run.
It'll be like this almost when you're running.
Yeah. It's not, my feet don't go like this, so they roll inward.
Yeah.
And so the Nike Vaporfly has like a very notable arc on the inner side.
Okay.
So literally 30% of my foot did not have support below. Only 70% had support. The other was like literally like hanging.
So it wasn't meant for your foot structure.
It was not meant. I did a couple of half marathons. I found it to be slightly more painful than like my normal shoes. So it was counterproductive. I've not done a lot.
How did you feel when you realized that these were not the right shoes?
It's fine. I think I've invested a lot, but costly mistakes, but learnings nevertheless. I still have them. I use them for some speed workout, but I just can't wear them for a long time. I
Yeah.
can't do. They're meant for like full marathons. I can't do full marathons with them.
With those, okay.
I can do speed
Those are
workouts like
lifestyle shoes in a way.
now they are like lifestyle shoes or like 3 to 5 kilometer speed workouts. I can sparingly use them, but not a lot. But I did try a few other brands as well. The one that I'm wearing, I'll probably flash images of that. Asics Gel Nimbus.
This is a very famous one.
Very famous. You will feel like you are in Meghalaya or you're like walking on clouds.
Okay.
It's super comfy. It's slightly heavy, so you don't want to be doing your PR efforts or high efforts in them. But for your regular mileage, they are fantastic.
Yeah.
And when we went to Canada, Hokas I didn't know were available in India that time, so I got a Hoka Arahi when I went there, and those are specifically meant for flat feet or for pronation.
Right.
So it's exactly the opposite of Nike Vaporfly, where you have like extra support. You literally feel it.
It's compensating
It's compensating. So your feet cannot roll inward. So there's like a lot of opposing force that comes there.
Okay. So is it designed specifically for those foot structures?
It's designed. So Hoka in Canada, I think like many floors, many shops, even Asics, the one in Indiranagar, if I'm not wrong, many stores in India also, they ask you to do a
test,
feet test or foot test. I don't know what it is.
Gait test and so on.
Yeah, they ask you to walk on a treadmill and then stand, and then they do a 3D scan or whatever.
Right. I think they even record videos, etc. Yeah.
Yes.
To see how your feet are moving.
Exactly. Right. So based on that, from their entire catalog of say 100 shoes, they'll say that hey, these are the 3 shoes that are tailor made for you, etc.
Yeah, nice.
Customized and like user friendly.
That's great.
It's good.
Okay. So what do they do for you? Like, what's the difference between a Hoka, whatever, and a normal pair of sports shoes that you get, say for 3,000 rupees or something?
Yeah, there are 2 things. One is energy returns. There's a concept called energy returns where if you're applying say 100 units of energy inside. So these shoes like the Nike Vaporfly or Adidas Pro, like the carbon plated shoes, they give you a lot of return back. So nothing is wasted in the process.
Okay.
So you put 100 in, you're probably getting 85 back. You see yourself propelling forward a lot more than say in like a shoe that doesn't have regular shoes, right? So it definitely helps. And some of these shoes which have like good cushioning and like good support, your recovery after the run is also much faster.
Okay.
So your knees don't feel the pain as much. So not during the run, but even after the run, your recovery is like much faster. So there is merit in investing in good shoes, but it's not mandatory.
Yeah.
We have like folks in the Whitefield Runners community who've done like 500 kilometers with the 600 rupee shoes. So it's not definitely not mandatory. But if you can, there is merit in investing in the right shoes.
Yeah, I think we'll in another episode we should also talk about the opposite of this, which is the minimalist running approach. Neither of us is doing that. But maybe we can research. Well, in brief, it basically is wearing shoes that have none of these. And it's just basically like running barefoot, except you'll have some protection to keep
just for the gravel.
Yeah, gravel to keep your feet, your skin intact. But no suspension, no cushioning or energy return, none of that. It forces you to do things a little differently, I guess. We can probably talk about it next time as well.
So section summary, it's not mandatory to invest in like, very costly shoes. Focus less on the brand, unlike me. Focus on like, fitment, how you feel in the shoe. And like Vinod's rightly mentioned, keep a track of your mileage, how many kilometers you're running, because most shoes don't last more than 600 to 800 kilometers, and in fact some carbon plated shoes I've heard like last only 4 or 5 full marathons, which is effectively like 300 kilometers.
So
keep track of your mileage and like choose shoes based on your fitment and budget, not a deal breaker, right? So that was on shoes.
Yeah, but you mentioned keep track of mileage, and how do we do that? What's your preferred way? I think we can talk about.
We I do it on Strava, an app called Strava. So if you've not heard about Strava,
it's very unlikely.
It's very unlikely. Like if you're watching,
you've probably heard about Strava, and you've probably heard about Strava from me if you know me personally, because I keep talking about it all the time, even though they don't pay me anything to do so. But
so Strava, like for the uninitiated, if you're listening to this podcast and don't know what Strava is, treat it like a social media platform, but for fitness. So basically, you do your activities or workouts, and don't keep it to yourself, but just share it. It syncs from your phone or your watch and like uploads the activity, or you can record an activity directly on Strava itself.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, there are other things you can do as well, like in terms of like measuring your progress, your fitness levels, and to Vinod's point, you can also like record your gear, like which shoe you're running with, so that you can attribute any run or activity to that shoe. Over time you can track how much mileage you've covered in different years.
Yeah. What do you like about Strava the most? And so there are multiple features. One is a social feature, which is you run and your friends can see that you've run, and that keeps you accountable. Maybe you feel that
Motivated.
I have a circle of people who care about me doing my workouts, and if I don't do it, I might be disappointing them. So if that works for you, this can be something to keep you consistent. Then there are the goals aspect. So you have those monthly challenges: 100 kilometer of running, 2000 kilometer cycling, and so on, or elevation 2000 meters.
Yeah.
So all these monthly challenges that you can try to complete.
Yes.
That's there. Then you have the plain tracking ability, because it gives you your pace, etc. So how much time have you spent on a run? Just those metrics. Tracking those metrics also works.
Yes.
Because you're always trying to beat your previous best effort, right? So that's also there. Strava also has these things called routes and segments, which are like
my favorite.
Oh, why don't you go? I'm not a great user of that, but you are, right?
My favorite is segment, like when it's mentioned, right? Like the social element is great. You see what others are doing, others can see what you're doing. So there's this added accountability and like motivation to keep each other going. That's obviously the most obvious benefit of Strava. But if you are a premium user, right, and premium comes at about $200 a month, which is one Puri dosa at Rameshwaram cafe, if you can forego and like invest that in Strava.
That's in India, no? It's probably different elsewhere.
Elsewhere, yeah. In India, it's like 200 INR Indian rupees. So with a premium subscription, what you can do is define specific segments or routes that you take on a regular basis, right? So for example, if you do your runs in Agara Lake, random example, right? So you can create a segment, from point A to point B, and then you can save it. You can test your own speed or performance in that segment over time. So
and is that benchmark. Okay? You can save it and compare your own performance, but can the rest of the people also do
everyone? So if you make it a public segment, you
Okay.
can keep it as a private segment as well. Like some people like to keep it private. So you just track your performance in that course, but you can make it public as well. So if you've created that segment and I come and do an effort in that segment, that counts as well. And then there's this entire element of gamification.
Yeah. Like, you're trying to be the best at pretty much whichever course you run the most frequently.
So there are two things there, right? Like one is fastest in that segment, who did that segment at the fastest time, and the second is my favorite, local legend.
Right.
So you become a local legend of a segment if you've done the most effort in that segment in the last 90 days.
Okay.
So I do that all the time. I figure out like what are the segments in my locality and try to become the local legend. That's an added motivation to sort of like go out and run. Okay. I've bagged, I think, 3 or 4 local legends in the Whitefield area.
Nice. Keeping the Whitefield Runners podcast name going, yes. Which is great. I think my favorite current track is probably the Mahadevpura Lake. So I do a lot of my runs there. Apparently, I've done 106 runs in the same place. So yeah, I think I deserve to be the local legend, but it doesn't look like it. I'm still far away from that. Nor do I have the fastest time. So way to go. Fastest. So that was on Strava, right?
Yeah. I think Strava and the benefits of the premium version is probably a separate episode in itself. But coming back to our core topic for today, like, is running a costly hobby? I think Strava subscription is probably
optional.
It's optional, but if you ask me, like, if you've taken running as a lifestyle, it's a no-brainer. Especially given that it's like $199 a month. Definitely worth considering, but definitely optional. I think there are a lot of things you can do with this free version of Strava as well.
Yeah, I would say that.
But we spoke about Strava, like I think like one more existential thing about like tracking is like having a tracking equipment, like a
fitness watch, wearable
smartwatch. Of course, you can track your activities on Strava directly as well. How important do you think is having a fitness watch, and is it mandatory? Like, can people still adopt running as a lifestyle without a watch? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah, no, so we'll go back to our own experiences. So I have to torture myself before I feel that I deserve something like a Garmin. So I bought Garmin many hundreds of kilometers into my running journey. So I used to have a Fitbit, which I got from the office as a swag. So zero investment there. And it wasn't that great. I used to have my Strava in my pocket and record the run on that because I had some trouble syncing with Fitbit and all that, and it was anyway garbage. That Fitbit wasn't very good, I would say. But carrying the phone around to track the run just didn't seem that great beyond a point. And at some point, I got the base Garmin Forerunner 55.
And for the phone, you don't also get other metrics like heart rate and all. Which
Oh
is
yeah,
essential,
that's
right?
there.
So
Yeah,
you can get the basics like how much time did you take,
pace.
how much distance,
Yeah.
pace, but that's about it. You don't get more intel around like how much effort you put,
Yeah,
your heart rate data, and
exactly.
like your fatigue, etc.
Yeah, and those things are important too. Knowing how your heart rate is changing as you run for a longer time, because that indicates your fitness and so on, your VO2 max and all of that stuff. And these metrics, while you may not care about them in the beginning, it's fine, but beyond a point, you might want to do that. So I think I would say that getting a Garmin was a great deal, good investment for me. It was again not an investment for me because my wife bought it. It was a birthday gift, and I was very upset that she would get something so expensive. Garments are expensive in India, more than in the US. You're paying a premium, so it was an expensive gift, and I felt that I didn't need it at that point. But once I started to use it, the Garmin Connect app, which you can, once you have a phone, the watch, you get the app as well. So yeah, you can use that, and it has coaching plans built into the app as well. So it'll give you a good calendar. Like this week, do 1, 2, and 3. These 3 runs, and then if you can set a target like I want to run a 2.5 hour half marathon, uh, 16 weeks from today. So it'll give you a plan that will scale up to that.
Yeah.
So you just follow the plan
Yeah.
as best as you can, and you know that you'll reach your target by the time the 16th week comes around. So that's a great feature. I'm currently using it to improve my half marathon training as well. Yeah.
Garmin obviously is the pinnacle of fitness watches.
Yeah, but even in that there's a huge variety. I have the starter one, Forerunner 55. You have a more
I have
advanced
the
one.
Forerunner 965, but yeah, I think like most of the stuff that you spoke about tracking like between watch and your app exists in like other watches also. Apple also has it. I think there are many new brands. I mean, Coros is there.
Coros, yeah.
I think Apple and Samsung are more lifestyle watches that also do fitness, but not necessarily core fitness watches. So they have their own pros and cons.
Yeah.
Probably again an episode in itself. I think Apple definitely has to improve on its.
And we've not even tried the OnePlus and any of these brands smart watches, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what the fitness features are like.
Yeah. So I think the main decision points are, whether you're comfortable without any tracking, like, you just want to run like for half an hour every day, and like you don't even want to know like how many kilometers you've run.
That's a fair approach too.
That's a fair approach. That's where you start. And then maybe tracking with your phone, just in Strava or like anything without an actual fitness watch. And then, basic fitness watches, and then, maybe like more
advanced
ones.
Should we go into the cost of some of this stuff?
Yeah.
You mentioned Strava is $200 a month. The Garmin Forerunner 55, you can get it for 18K at during some sale or something.
Yeah.
What about your watch? How much?
This is Forerunner 965. I again got it in the US. In India, it's like much more costly. In US, if you get it during a sale time, you're probably going to get it for currency converted about 35 to 40,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, none of this is mandatory, right? You can do without.
I think the wearables market in India is exploding. In Amazon, I even saw a lot of watches starting from $1,000. So the range is effectively like $1,000 to a lakh. So you choose where you want to go. None of this is mandatory. I think we've explained the pros and cons of both.
Yeah. Cool. So that was on tech.
We discussed tech. We discussed shoes. What are some of the other essentials if you're doing endurance running?
So I am a decathlon fanatic. I have an absurd amount of love for the decathlon stores, mainly because of how inexpensive things are, and you always feel like you're getting good value for money. Uh, and they have good equipment, apparel for pretty much everything you need. Maybe not these special shoes or uh, tech watches, for example, but anything to do with apparel, you definitely have a good choice at Decathlon. You have the running, the tights, which are tights on the inside, and outside you have regular shorts, and then you have the singlets. They are called, I think.
Singlets, yeah, sleeveless tops, basically.
Yeah, and then yeah, regular shorts, t-shirts. I mean, what's there to talk about it? But I do have two things. Maybe one is it's like a belt that you can use to store your phone in, because you don't want to be running with a phone in your hand. That's one. So this belt or a pouch helps you store stuff. Along the same lines, you have the hydration vest as well. I don't yet have one, but I'm thinking of getting one of those so that you can run and have your hydration on you. The thing was, when you have a bottle and the water bounces around, it does feel a little awkward because one side is bouncing more than the other. So you're always trying to find the best spot to actually place the bottle on. So I think a hydration vest might help me. So that's one thing I'm considering getting.
Yeah.
Not yet there. Yeah.
So I think essential here would be probably if you have thick thighs.
Thick thighs. Yes.
That probably,
I have thick thighs. Okay.
that rub against each other when you're
Yes.
running. It's a genuine problem, right?
Yeah,
so
it
I
is
think
absolutely.
getting
Chafing is a real problem.
it's a real problem. So
Yeah.
and
Those tights.
Decathlon is not sponsoring this video, but like we love Decathlon. They do have like you said, like 2 layered shorts. One that is like more compression shorts inside, and then like a loose one outside. So I think that is
those help with preventing the chafing.
Yes.
And then Vaseline obviously helps.
Yeah.
I use Vaseline to prevent this chafing from happening. And then I have the Andy Bernard problem as well.
Yeah.
Which your nipples start to hurt after you run for a bit. Especially even anything beyond 9 kilometers, 10K and all, it starts to hurt a lot if I'm not wearing
do you have a tape there?
Yeah, so now I get masking tape to prevent that from happening.
Yes.
There was a time when, if I forget to do that, then I have to run like this.
Yeah.
It's awkward.
I generally don't have that problem, but once for a long distance for the Mumbai Marathon, I think after the 30th kilometer mark, it actually started bleeding there because of the.
Sounds painful.
But yeah, that is when I realized that like having like any sort of tape, you don't need like a specific
just a masking tape.
Any masking tape,
medical tape.
Medical tape should do the trick there.
Yeah.
So this aspect of
but one more thing is there though. Apart from that, so I noticed that this happens more when you wear cotton t-shirts and run. You should wear the synthetic material.
Yeah.
One, because it's good at wicking your sweat, and I think it gets evaporated or something. And then the second thing is the lightweightness.
Right.
It doesn't retain water, so it's quite lightweight.
Right.
And the third thing is the chafing happens less with the synthetic material than with cotton t-shirt. So yeah, that's definitely a good reason to not wear cotton
t-shirts or cotton shorts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think this aspect, the accessories and like good to have, it's not probably going to cost you a lot. Belt is probably going to cost you like 500, 800 bucks on Decathlon. A good shorts is probably going to cost you 1,000 to 1,500 bucks. It starts at like a lower range as well. I think this aspect is fine. So going back to our initial question, so is running really a costly hobby? It can be.
It can be,
but it doesn't have to.
It
doesn't have to. I think the basic essential is just starting off with what you have, and then depending on your needs and your capacity to invest, you can as much as you want to.
Don't get into the feeling that once I get this, then I will run. No, you run and then you upgrade as you need. So running can be free of cost.
You mentioned about Chetna, your wife, gifting you the garment, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I make any purchase, I buy a brand new carbon plated shoes and come home, and then I have a conversation with Sandhya, my wife. She's like, how much did you spend on this? I was like, I didn't spend anything. I spent zero. I invested in me. So this is not an expenditure.
It's an
Not a
investment.
it's an investment on your, health and your
Yeah.
fitness.
Yeah, those knee replacements are not cheap. So good to get good shoes now itself.
Exactly.
Considering how much you run. So yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
Maybe
Good,
that's a good note to maybe
Call
close.
it a day.
Yeah, call
Yeah.
it a day. Close this episode. Thanks a lot for all your feedback and support.
Thank you.
Turn this upside down.